Let's get started. Welcome to ForeFlight for Flight Schools. In this webinar, we'll take a close look at what ForeFlight has to offer and the unique benefits flight schools can receive with an education group account. Our presenters for today are deeply familiar with the value ForeFlight can provide for students and instructors. Ryan and Rachel, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ryan Bohlander. I'm an account executive for education here at ForeFlight. I have an amazing job that I get to work with flight schools, universities, flight departments in the Americas and around the world. I'm a CFI. I train a little bit on my own when I can, and I want to say hello to a lot of people I've met out there in the industry already. Today, I'm super excited to have Rachel Scarbrough on with me. She's also a CFI that has also talked to flight schools. How's it going, Rachel?
Hey guys, thanks Ryan. I'm Rachel. I'm a product manager here at ForeFlight. I have also been to quite a lot of shows, including Oshkosh and Sun and Fun, and I'm excited to be here with you.
Thanks, guys. Here's a look at today's agenda. As we go through it, Rachel has taken a long list of frequently asked questions that we hear from flight schools, and we'll pitch those to Ryan as we go. So to start, we'll take a look at how ForeFlight can solve many challenges flight schools have through education group accounts. We'll take a brief look at how those group accounts are organized, making sure everyone who needs ForeFlight in your organization has it. Ryan will also discuss how group accounts are flexible and customizable to fit the needs of any flight school. And we'll take a look at several features that set group accounts apart in the flight training environment, including cloud documents, shared aircraft profiles, and custom content. And then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. Before we get started though, you can ask questions through the GoToWebinar message panel on the right side of your screen. We have several people who are ready to reply behind the scenes. We'll also take a few of the more popular questions and ask those during live Q&A at the end. If you encounter audio problems during today's webinar, first try leaving and rejoining the webinar. You can also try switching to a computer if you're watching today's webinar on a mobile device. And lastly, today's webinar, which will not take the full hour many of you may be expecting, is being recorded so you can share it with colleagues or others. We'll post the recording at foreflight.com/webinars in the next 24 hours. With that, let's get started. Ryan and Rachel, take it away.
So when I talk to a lot of flight schools, and they're often looking for a customized ForeFlight solution. And that's something that we at ForeFlight had worked hard on. Obviously, student pilots and flight training is critical to the growth of the industry. And ForeFlight is proud to be a partner with a lot of students and a lot of flight schools. We hear a lot of challenges from flight schools as we talk to them as we're out in the field. I know, Rachel, you've been out at a lot of different shows, as you mentioned. What have you heard from some of the flight schools in terms of challenges that they're facing today?
Sure, there's quite a few of them out there. We've got managing growth. Flight schools are constantly growing and helping fill the need for a pilot shortage. Challenging administration with expanding costs and operations. Flight schools have so many systems and applications, maintenance, scheduling, student management. There's just a lot to juggle. Keeping costs down. Everything is expensive. Maintenance, onboarding, compliance. And we've got, managing risk. Am I doing everything possible to keep my pilot safe? Last but not least, unstandardized training. CFIs are often using different methods and techniques to teach different materials. Are several different kinds of EFBs. Some are even using paper charts.
I hear that too. That's a huge challenge when you're managing a flight school is how exactly are your CFIs training your students? And so many times they just want to get everything standardized. And also we know that standardization is a true staple in aviation. So one thing that ForeFlight's done is we've created what's called an education group account. And this is really tailored specifically for flight schools. Essentially what this is the ability for a flight school to purchase ForeFlight licenses and distribute them to their CFIs and students. A school can start with 10 licenses, or if you're like one of our larger flight schools, several hundred or even a few thousand for some of our university partners. It's easy to add licenses as you go. You can assign them to students, and it just ensures that everybody is using the same EFB and the same flight planning software. This is all managed through foreflight.com. So you as a flight school administrator would log into the web. There's an organization tab. You can add pilots. You can remove pilots. You can add licenses as you go. And it's a really, really great way to ensure that that all of your students are using ForeFlight. In addition to having schools use a group account and have all of their students in the same organization, you can now share documents. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a bit. But the way to take your documents, you connect ForeFlight to Dropbox, a cloud storage provider such as Amazon S3, Microsoft OneDrive, and you can push documents to all of your students so they can have access to a wide variety of things. And again, we'll get into that in a second. You can also share school aircraft profiles. And again, an amazing feature that can only be done when you have a school with a group account. But the big benefit, Rachel, is that it's a standardized solution so that all students are using the same EFB and are training on the same EFB.
So, Ryan, is there a minimum number of licenses that you need?
Yes, the minimum number of licenses is 2, and 2 constitutes a group. And a lot of schools start with 5, 10, 15 licenses just to the number that they can assign on day one. And then as the school grows, they can just add more licenses as they go. It's a very, very scalable solution.
Yeah, that's great. So many students already have ForeFlight that purchased it on their own. Is there a way that I can add them to my group?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And we're super excited because, as you know, Rachel, a lot of students are just using ForeFlight already. Probably they purchased it on their own. What we do is we have a process where we can suspend their individual account. We give them store credit to purchase ForeFlight, and then we can import them into the school's group. So that way the student is no longer paying for ForeFlight and they have a credit for what they've already used. It's a great way to ensure that the student is still receiving value for what they purchased initially, but still allowing the school to bring them into the group to take advantage of those benefits that we offer. And of course, when a student leaves that organization and they graduate, they're off to the airlines, they can then purchase ForeFlight on their own. And if they previously had ForeFlight, that credit is going to be applied to their account.
Flight training is paper heavy and schools are constantly needing to share information with students. And I know you mentioned a little bit earlier before about document sharing. How does this feature work?
The cloud document feature is truly amazing, and so many schools are utilizing this as a tremendous efficiency. As I mentioned earlier, you can connect to Dropbox, Box, Amazon S3, and once that admin account is connected to ForeFlight, a school can digitize just about anything that they can push out to students.
What types of documents do schools typically upload?
You know, the sky's the limit. A lot of times schools are pushing their curriculum right through ForeFlight. It's amazing that they've got maneuver guides, weight and balance sheets that are often walk away from the aircraft, standard operating procedures. All of those things can be digitized by a school and then pushed out to those students. So when that student logs into ForeFlight and they go to the Documents tab, they can access those school's documents right there on their device. It's an incredible efficiency for the school. And as we know, ForeFlight also includes a lot of the FAA folder, an FAA folder as well, which contains certification standards, a copy of the FAR AIM, the PHAC, the Airplane Flying Handbook. All of that stuff is also available right there within the Documents tab.
Wow. What if I needed to change versions or add a new document? Is that pretty easy?
Totally. Absolutely. All you need to do is through the admin portal, log into your Dropbox account. There's a ForeFlight folder. You upload a new version of that document that you want the students to have, and they'll automatically receive it. They'll access it when they're on Wi-Fi and then download it. And then when they're away from Wi-Fi, they can access that document at any time, which is great if they're in the cockpit. If they need to look up something, it's at their fingertips.
Schools typically have multiple aircraft of different types and performance characteristics. Are students responsible for creating their school's aircraft profiles?
So if you're a student and you're at a school that doesn't have a group account, yes, that's kind of the way it's done. Just like you're a normal subscriber, you'd log on, you'd have to create that aircraft profile on your own. However, when a school has a group account, they're able to publish the school's aircraft profiles. And this is tremendously efficient if you're a school that has 10, 20, 40 aircraft. We have schools that big. When that happens, the administrator is able to publish an aircraft by tail number, including all the equipment, the performance characteristics, and all of those aircraft get automatically pushed out to the students' devices. So when they log into the aircraft tab and they need to do a flight plan, the school's aircraft will automatically be there. And this is a tremendously amazing way for aircraft profiles to automatically appear in the ForeFlight accounts of their students.
Yeah, it sounds like it makes things very easy. Can students alter the school profiles on their devices?
Thankfully, no. All of the aircraft profiles are only manageable at the admin level. And this is important because it's as a flight school administrator, you're going to know which specific equipment is on your aircraft, so you can manage those profiles. If you need to make a change or if you need to purchase a new aircraft, you can add those aircraft as well. So all the aircraft profiles are managed at the admin level. The students are unable to change those profiles, so there's no risk of making an incorrect or inaccurate aircraft profile for flight planning.
Nice. Okay, weight and balance, is that included for each of the profiles?
Absolutely. Again, the school can create the weight and balance profile for those organization aircraft. So again, there's no risk in having a student set up the structure of weight and balance inaccurately. So in addition to documents, in addition to shared aircraft profiles, another really great feature that schools have access to is something called content packs. Content packs are where an administrator can share to all of its licenses things like custom nap layers, custom plates, different waypoints that the school is creating. And this is a great way for a school to define its practice areas, create waypoints where that may be reporting points that are specific to that school. If a school is near a hazardous area such as parachute activity, if there's an approach area where there's a lot of instrument training, such as a stack here in the Southwest practice area where I live, schools can create map layers that are customized that all the students can receive. So here's an example of two content packs that schools have used that are currently in use. On the left, that is the Southwest practice area in southwest of Phoenix that has customized reporting points that schools use that are not charted. When flight training is happening in that area, students are able to overlay this map layer and then know exactly where those reporting points are. On the right, one of our largest flight school partners is the University of North Dakota, and these are all defined practice areas around that school so that students know where to practice. There's a boundary that's created. It's right on top of ForeFlight, and it's a really good way for a school to define hazardous areas and airspace for flight training.
So Ryan, we have 3 different subscription plans for individual users: Basic Plus, Pro Plus, and Performance Plus. Which tiers are available for flight school licenses?
That's a great question. So for flight school licenses, we offer Pro and Performance. Pro is a great license. It has a lot of great features. It's a high value license. Things like flight planning is involved, cloud documents, where I talked about earlier, sharing documents. You can get that with Pro licenses. A logbook is available in Pro, printable nav logs, track logs, profile view and airspace. Really great training features that are very suitable to flight training. However, if you buy Performance, obviously everything in ForeFlight is unlocked. I specifically want to highlight content packs, which I just talked about. That's a performance level feature. And also 3D airports and 3D track log review. If you're familiar with ForeFlight, you know that we have an amazing 3D airport feature. And I know, Rachel, that when I'm training my students, I always look at the 3D airport feature ahead of time, just so they can get a sense of where they're going, situational awareness, part of their flight planning. It gives me a lot of comfort as a CFI, knowing that I've discussed the terminal environment of that solo flight, cross-country solo flight, in detail with my student. And it's easily done through ForeFlight.
If you haven't checked out the 3D view at night, that is one of my favorite little features within ForeFlight. It shows the lighting system for the airports. And when you're on glide slope, you can move it up and down and you can see the PAPI lights and everything.
Yes, that is an incredible training tool and something I use with my students as well.
I know pilots within a school may prefer one subscription level over another. Can schools mix and match pro and performance?
They certainly can, and a lot of schools do that. Some schools go all performance, some schools go all pro, but a lot of schools are able to mix or choose to mix and match performance and pro. For example, they may give performance to their CFIs, possibly as a perk for working there. And then that way, at least one person within the student and CFI relationship will have access to all of our features. So yes, mix and matching pro and performance is something that a school is definitely able to do with a group account.
Awesome. And then with many students looking towards an airline career, I hear many schools are training with Jeppesen charts. Can Jeppesen charts be added to the school subscription?
Yes, Jeppesen charts can definitely be added to any education group account, especially if you're a flight school with an airline preparation program, or you're looking to get your CFIs ready for their interviews at a regional airline. We all know that Jeppesen charts are the standard in professional flying and in professional aviation. And yes, you can add Jeppesen charts very reasonably priced to education group accounts.
Okay, I've got a big question here. ForeFlight just purchased Cloud Ahoy. What's in the works for flight schools?
Oh, so great you asked. Cloud Ahoy is something that ForeFlight is very proud to have acquired recently. For a long time, many of you know about Cloud Ahoy. They've been a standard in really great education-based track logs and pilot debrief tools. We are now working hard behind the scenes to incorporate Cloud Ahoy track logs into our education group accounts. Another thing that Cloud Ahoy has brought to the table is PFOQA, which stands for Pilot Flight Operations Quality Assurance. And that gives a flight school administrator the ability to look at all of their flights in sum for a particular time period, whether it's the past month, the past quarter. You get a dashboard of all the flights that have been taken. And within that dashboard, you can identify flights that have certain flight characteristics that are outside of normal. Maybe you set your parameters such that a pilot was banking too steeply, or maybe they're too fast on their approach, or their approach was unstable. The flight school can control those parameters and then get notifications sent straight to them that allows them to know what happened with a very particular flight. It's a great way of monitoring safety. It's a great way for training, and it's something that schools are very, very excited about. And we are very excited to offer it through Cloud Ahoy's PFOQA.
Absolutely. So what do schools need to get started with this?
So really, obviously, they need to reach out to me. I'm the one who will handle the account setup in the account preparation. We can talk about pricing. The great thing about a education group account is the per unit price is going to be less than what a student would pay for ForeFlight retail. So all of the great features we've talked about today, from cloud documents, from aircraft profiles, are all going to be less per license than retail. So if you're a school, reach out to me and I will get you a quote, and then we can get you set up so students and CFIs can be training with ForeFlight today. All right, Jay, back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Before we get into some questions, I want to point out a few useful links for you. First, foreflight.com/education is where you can learn more about all of the features your school and instructors can take advantage of to enhance your students' learning. Next, foreflight.com/webinars can be a useful tool for you, your instructors, and students. There you can find links to many of our past webinars, including one a few months ago called ForeFlight for Student Pilots, which was led by 2 other flight instructors that work here at ForeFlight. Third, if you or someone at your flight school ever have questions or an issue you'd like us to look into, you can email us at team@foreflight.com to reach our support team. And last but certainly not least, you can reach out to Ryan to set up a group account or to talk more about how it would benefit your flight school at sales@foreflight.com. With that, let's move on to some questions. And thank you all so much for submitting those questions today. We did just lose Rachel. We had a power outage at our Austin office. So we've still got Ryan here, though. So Ryan, I do have a couple questions for you.
All right.
Yeah, let's go for it. The first one I have is we've talked for a long time about the move away from paper charts to tools like EFBs. Can you talk a little bit about where we are as an industry, where we are in that process, and maybe what's next?
That's a great question, Jay. And that is something I have conversations about with flight school administrators and universities all the time, is specifically when to bring in paper charts compared to the use of an EFB. For sure, it's a great idea to bring in an EFB on day one. When you get a ForeFlight subscription, you get your documents, you get your maps, everything's updated. There's so much there available. I highly recommend you start with a logbook on day one as a student as well, so they don't have to go back after the fact and add in flights. And also, it's incredibly important to, if you want to train the fundamentals of flight planning, you can definitely do that alongside of ForeFlight as well. You can still do a paper nav log so students can learn about ground speed and all the other fundamentals, but having ForeFlight in tandem on day one is an incredibly important way to get students ready for a modern flight training environment and modern flying environment. Great question.
Absolutely. I wasn't planning to say this, but I'm a student pilot myself, and having that logbook, like you mentioned on day one in ForeFlight, where I know it's going to be for a long time to come, is I know it's going to cause my life to be simple after having talked to some friends with a lot more hours. Next question, and this is the last one I have for you, Ryan, is about how long does it normally take from the time a flight school first reaches out to you all the way to getting ForeFlight deployed to their instructors and students?
Great question. Usually we can do it pretty quick. And the reason is a group account is rather simple to administer for a flight school. Really what we need to do is just have a conversation. I'll probably go over a lot of the things that we talked about in this webinar today in terms of what's available. We can talk about how to best use it for that school, any nuances about that school, but really it's just maybe a conversation or two. And then once the school lets me know how many licenses they'd like to start, I can get them set up the next day. I'll send them a quote. They can get that bottom line price. I can answer any additional questions, and we get them going after that. And then basically we turn the keys of the account over to the flight school, and all the main tasks will be adding pilots as they need to their licenses, adding more licenses as they grow, updating their aircraft profiles, and managing their documents. It's all really simple and efficient.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ryan. Anything else you want to mention before we close it out?
No, it was great. Again, a big shout out. I know there's a lot of people on that I've talked to before. I've met the industry. I'm out and about. I'll be at Oshkosh this year. I'll be at UAA, University of Aviation Association. I'll be at FASANA. So please come up to me and say hi. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. Flight training is my passion. Teaching is my passion. And if you're interested in the next step of getting a hold of me, remember sales@foreflight.com. And in that message, make sure you include my name, and that will get right to my inbox. It's been a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. This has been great. And I know a lot of people have hopefully taken away a lot of useful things. Before we go today, I just want to mention these links one more time. ForeFlight.com/education is where you can learn about all of the features and the tools that ForeFlight can provide for your flight school. Some we've talked about today and some we haven't as well. ForeFlight.com/webinars. This webinar will be posted there probably later today, but if not, it'll be there by this time tomorrow. And again, Ryan mentioned sales@foreflight.com. And in addition to that, if you have any questions that come up, if maybe one of your students has a question about how a feature works or something, you can always reach out to team@foreflight.com as well to reach our support team. With that, I want to thank you all so much for coming, and we'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye, everybody.